And we're going to start off with a short devar by Rabbi Josh Brendel. Thank you, Rabbi, for being here.
Thank you. It's a real delight to be with the gathering today. And we're in a special year. We're in the year 5782, which is a Shemitah year. What is a Shemitah year, you ask? I can hear over Zoom. I'm glad you asked, because the Shemitah year is described in last week's Torah portion and this week's Torah portion, both in Parashat Bahar and Bechukotai. In short, we're commanded to let the earth rest 1 year out of every 7. Shemitah literally means to let go, to release, to just let fall. And we can derive some very powerful wisdom from that very ancient tradition. It's a mindfulness practice and one that brings us to care for the earth. There's a very, very powerful teaching that says that the essence of a Jewish life is not what happens in shul and synagogue and the sanctuary. So what we do in our lives, it's what we do when we're out and around and living. That's what this is all about, is leading a life that exemplifies the values that we hold close. So what is it that we are holding close here? It's to be Shomrei Adamah. It's to be guardians of the earth. And in a Shemitah year, in this year of letting the earth lie fallow, of reestablishing itself, of restoring some of those natural sacred rhythms, that value is for us to see ourselves as acting not independently from the earth, rather in concert with it, being part of the great cycle and sweep of life. That was part of the inspiration that drew me to speak for, I think, the past 3 high holidays from the pulpit about the importance of our being aware of and responding to climate change in meaningful and deliberative ways. And I took this as a real challenge from and with our green team at Congregation Bethel in Sudbury. We found a lot of support from the community as we've been getting very public together and very open and exploring the many, many ways that a Jewish tradition and modern scientific understanding of climate can work together in harmony. And I found some great clergy and community support together, teaching that we're in sync with what we're doing. I don't want to speak for too long about the specifics of what we at Bethel have been doing, although I believe that we were one of the very first mass energized congregations to take this seriously. And there's been incredible blessings that my community and I have derived from this. We've had all kinds of initiatives and programs. Just this Monday, we had a sustainable gardening program. We have our climate mention of the month, where we spotlight different members of the community in our temple newsletter who are doing neat things around sustainability and to serve as role models for other members of the congregation as well. It's a way to take a very, very clear statement of how ancient beliefs and modern ethics and modern action can reinforce each other for mutual benefit. So back to Shemitah, this year of release, this year of letting go and finding a loving rhythm with the world. This is our charge to bring that care to the earth in all the many ways that we can imagine and ones that may still be yet to come from our scientists and great minds that are out there. We have a value of seeing the earth as being worthy of respect and care because we are made from the earth. We are of and about the earth. We're not separate from it. We're part of that global family. And what we at Bethel are seeing ourselves as doing is when we care for our environment in our congregants' homes, in our temple home, we're bringing holy sparks up in the world as a whole. Getting a energy efficient tankless water heater like we did in my house became a devotional moment. And when we talk about our members who chose to buy an electric vehicle, we celebrate that as something that really is in concert with Jewish values. So may this gathering be blessed with the light that is now just beginning to dim outside that can stay within our hearts, recognizing that we have work to do in our world. We can illuminate the way for one another. May we learn from one another with patience, with appreciation, with delight, and may we never grow tired in our holy task to bring renewal and healing to our sacred world. Thank you so very much for the invitation to join you on this soon-to-be 41st day of the Omer. I'm so very grateful to JCAN and for its conveners to have invited me and convened us tonight.
Rabbi, we're grateful to you. Thank you so much for your words and also for your ongoing leadership at your congregation and in the whole community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So thanks everybody for being here. If you want to do something constructive in the world, you've come to the right place. We are going to, JCAN is all about action, and I hope we're going to be showing you some very constructive, very straightforward things to do on climate action, if you aren't already, that is. Now, some synagogues that are represented here tonight already are part of the JCAN Mass Energize partnership. There are 8 synagogues already participating, and the rest of you are about to. So decarbonization is already accelerating within your community. Is it fast enough? I'll be getting back to those questions, but we're going to start with, and here's a rough outline. You don't have to study it. We're going to jump back and forth between myself and Brad, who represents Mass Energize, and then also some of the people who have been working at this at the Mass Energize synagogue organizing, and here's some words of wisdom from them, from their experiences. And just pointing out, this is where we all want to be. We've got one synagogue who's already at 70% of the congregation participating. And we also, by the end of tonight, we want to see which synagogues are ready or want to be ready.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I just wanted to tell you, and I was very inspired by what's been said. And I thank you for your, commitment to do this. We'll take you to all to the same place, and it's very easy from there to create a profile. We're really proud to have JCAN as one of our earliest communities, and in fact, it's different than all of our other communities. All of our other communities are towns, and this is a really interesting cross-cutting community. Most people are in different towns here, maybe even different states. That doesn't matter. For Mass Energize, I joined with Ellen Tone, who's on the call, and Kat Vanderstraten a few years ago to get this started. And we just aim to make it easier for anybody to take climate action in whatever community they are of different sorts. And so the difference with the JCAN site, which Fred may have explained before, is that the different congregations are in teams.
I don't want to just register for a site without knowing what the ultimate benefits are.
Well, why don't we come back to that in a few minutes then?
Okay.
That's fine. Is that okay, Brad?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. And Brad and I knew there would be some chaos there. And thank you for your patience, and we'll come back to it. It'll make more sense in a minute. All right, so I'll do some introductory slides, and where I'm coming from is the background of JCAN and why Mass Energize is the perfect tool, the cool combo, just what you need. It's not everything, but it's super important. So a little bit about JCAN is here. We're about 9 years old. We are the conveners of the 3 conferences, Jewish Climate Action Network conferences. They've grown to be national and international. A lot of people on our mailing list, and we're heavily in New England. And then for tonight, as I said, we've got 3 countries who include, there were registrations from Canada and Australia, including the United States, and 11 states. That's just tonight. And importantly for tonight, in our history, a year and a half ago, we launched this partnership with Mass Energize, and you'll see why in just a minute. So first, a caveat is that JCAN is involved and knows thoroughly that all these aspects of climate action are incredibly important and necessary, every one of them. And I'm not going to read through them all. But I say that as a caveat that tonight's program is not about all of those. It's mostly about direct household level decarbonization. In that realm, a paradigm shift is absolutely necessary, but that doesn't mean it replaces or displaces anything else on that list. So that's our caveat. Most of our work is geared, and this work in particular is geared for the synagogue or community level green team. If you don't have a green team already, it's highly recommended that you start one. If you have one already, it's highly recommended that you, as you go about these steps, that you along the way continue to strengthen your green team. We run, I'm going to point out 6 different programs in our decarbonization curriculum. These 3 are workshops because they run multiple times a year. So if you haven't attended them now yet, you still can next time they run. This one in particular, I'm going to point out a bit because it's not about the synagogue building. It's about your congregants, the households in your congregation, the households represented by your congregants. And this one is also all about household level decarbonization. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So the theme is that widespread household adoption of technology must accelerate massively. It's also critically important for us, climate action leaders, to understand that societal change happens always in incremental stages. We want it all to happen yesterday, but in reality, it is happening, but it happens in incremental stages. I'll show you what I mean. And enormous community organizing is necessary and can be effective. And the key point here is that we should all understand that more and more people are adopting the new technology. And when new technology is adopted, it always looks like this. That is, if it gets to 100% adoption in a population. It always looks like this. There are a few people who are at the left end, the weirdos, the crazies, who get started at the very beginning when nobody else thinks this is a good idea at all. And they're generously eventually called innovators. Now we're well into the innovator stage, many years in the 3 critical technologies, many years. So nobody's weird or crazy anymore. And we're into the early adopter stage. Exactly where we are between those 2 is not really clear. But note that even when you get through all the early adopters and innovators, you're at 16% of the population. We need to get into the early majority stage. When will we get to there? We'll know it when we get there, but it's a steep ramp up to get from here to there. But also, before we leave this, note that even after you get the late majority done, there's still another 16% of the population that hasn't yet gotten on board. That's okay. Everybody will get there eventually. It can't all be done at once. But if it's not helped by you, then who? And if it's not now, then when? We do need 50% decarbonization by 2030, and that can only happen with acceleration. Couple of slides from the state roadmap, the Massachusetts roadmap. Those out of state should be like, this is a great document that we have here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it's pointed out that millions of smaller transitions are needed in this decade. That's until 2030. Millions. Millions? That means each person in a state. That's how you get to those millions. And why? Why? Because it's at the household level that things matter. 60% of all the transportation emissions, carbon emissions in the whole state, come from household level passenger cars and passenger trucks. 60% of transportation emissions come from household level passenger cars and trucks. Similarly, 60% of all the emissions from buildings in the entire state come from our 3 million residential households. So it's us. It is nobody else. You can't get there without us, the household level. And what are the 3 largest measures to decarbonize, to reduce the carbon footprint? There are 3. Electric car, heat pump heating, and photovoltaics, usually on roofs. Those are the 3. There are lots of other measures to reduce carbon footprint, lots of other good green measures. You can't add those up and get there get to a massive decarbonization without these 3. We have to be working on those. So because of all the above, JCAN has developed this great decarbonizers program. It's very simple. It's very efficacious. It requires tapping 3 people in your congregation, 3 members who will influence others. Those are non-experts. Every congregation should run this program. It's a standalone program usually. And we teach a recipe in a webinar. And what does it look like? It looks like Irene, who has heat pump in her house, Mark, who has PV on his roof, and Elisa, who drives an EV. That's it. These 3 happen to be in 3 different states. We ran it nationally. Here, they're all in one congregation. This is a brotherhood program. Dave, Harvey, and Matt, EV, PV, HP. Very simple. None of them are experts. They all talked about their own experience, and they were incredibly influential. People came out of the program saying, gosh, if they could do it, why can't we? Of course we can. And within a month, people were getting their EVs and PVs. Heat pumps are a little harder, but that's fine. And just a couple months ago, this congregation in Ohio did a Zoom program, same decarbonizers program. It's very simple. And with that is Bob here. We're going to talk about how to get into, or why, Bob, your congregation got into Mass Energize, which we're going to talk about in more detail in just a second.
We talked with our clergy and board at one point about joining JCAN, and for some reason there was a little resistance. And we looked around at the tools that were on the Mass Energize site, and we showed it to a number of folks in our leadership, and they were just thrilled. And we said, if we join this, it's kind of free. If we try and create it ourselves, it's going to be, very, very difficult. And we were able to turn things around fairly quickly. And people were very willing to say yes.
I think that statement that the Mass Energize portal would take a huge amount of effort for anybody to recreate anything like it, and it would be small and clunky, whereas Mass Energize is capacious and does everything you need. So yes, to recreate it is folly. Okay, so you jump into Mass Energize. Has anybody gotten to this? Raise your hand, like even by hand. I can see you all. Raise your hand, keep it high for a moment. Have you seen this? Have you gotten this far? Cool, a lot of you have. That's good. Okay, this I consider the heart, because what do you see here? The 3 same measures that Fred has just been yammering about. These are the essential measures for massive decarbonization. And sure enough, you can click on a lot of measures within Mass Energize, but these 3 rack up the points. They rack up the points. The other ones are more incremental. And just to give you the outside in, now if you go to the communities, you see all these towns: Greenfield, Springfield, Framingham, Lexington, Medfield, Milton, Newton, et cetera, and JCAN stands out, as Brad says. It's not like the others because it by itself is a network of communities. In our case, the communities are synagogues communities. And if then you click on that, you see the 8 participating JCAN Mass Energized synagogues. There are 8 of them. Yasher Koach to all 8 of you. Fantastic. You have gotten things started. We're looking for the next 8 to jump in. It could be tonight. All right, so these are the 8. There's something about Wayland. There are 3 different congregations in Wayland, all on Mass Energize. And John, could you jump in and say what you said about the other day about board resolution, what that did for you?
Hi, John Harper with Congregation Bethel. We did a campaign in the fall of 2019, working with a number of people who were already in the congregation who were interested in this area, and drafted a resolution with the board's support. And that really mobilized a lot of interest amongst the congregation. It was right around the time that Mass Energized platform was rolled out. So we actually went to all the board members and said, you need to be one of our first teams. How many people on the board can we get to be on a team? And so that support from the board helped mobilize dozens of people to join right away. So it was a sign of support, sign of official commitment. Obviously, Rabbi Brendel was also very, very helpful, recorded a number of events, and it just allowed us to really come out of the block very strong.
Go to the board with the resolution. Always a good idea.
And Fred, I'm happy to share our resolution with folks if they if it's not immediately available. So someone can send me a note or send you a note, because I'm in a place where I can't write down names, but I'll be happy to share it with them.
Cool. Thank you so much. That's a great offer. Thank you, John. All right, Harvey, you're on the call. Do you want to explain what you did to get started?
All of us in our communities, congregational or otherwise, run into people who say, you know, I'm interested in doing something myself to support the climate, but I don't know where to start. And I wish there was something that would at least help me get started. So anyone can go to the Mass Energize site and register themselves and look at these things and learn what they can do. And there's a lot of good information on that. And if they're in a Jewish community, then they can affiliate themselves with JCAN without their synagogue having organized a team yet. And that will count towards our community count on how many things that we've done. And then if they like it, they can suggest that their synagogue community create a team. And afterwards, they can move themselves onto their synagogue's team once they've set it up. And it doesn't take very long for a synagogue to set up a team. There's a form to fill out, and then I think there's some process at Mass Energize to finalize it. But that doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing, an unreasonable path for a lot of communities to get started.
Great. Thank you, Harvey. Now, Andy wasn't able to be on the call today, but and his congregation is not yet one of the participating Mass Energized synagogues. And he said, however, we do have this mailing list that he's maintained, and it can be used. So I just want to relay what Barbara said. So in their congregation, they held an EV program. I don't remember exactly whether it was an expert talking about electric vehicles, or they had a couple that people could look at outside, whatever. And she said, and a number of the people that showed up were in the market for a new car. And I said, Barbara, that's it. That's everything. What we're doing, and this is generally about anything we do as a green team where we attract interest from other people, and it's what the Decarbonizers program is all about. People show up sometimes because they're just generally interested, but sometimes because they might be the next practitioners. So that is everything there. And how this ties back into Mass Energize is you get those people registered in your team, and then they go ahead with the EV, and then their carbon footprint gets dramatically better, and then the whole community's carbon footprint gets dramatically better. John, you want to say anything about ongoing organizing here?
We use the platform as a way of contacting people. We're always wanting to do more of that. We have email lists. When we register for a Zoom event, we get the emails, we cross-check it, we follow up with those people. So the two reinforce each other, the events and the Mass Energize platform, to try and get people engaged, to learning about other actions. We're always saying, go check out what other people are doing, tell us what you've done, add a testimonial. So it just kind of feeds on itself, and we're always recommending that they go pass on an email that I've sent out. So after our sustainable gardening event that the rabbi mentioned on Monday, I sent an email the next day saying, hey, great, glad you all could come. Here's links to the information that's provided. Send this email to someone else. Tell them to go check out the Mass Energize site. And the whole idea is just to kind of reinforce the idea of engaging on the platform and engaging other people in the congregation. So it just continues on and on.
I'm sorry Peter can't be here. So what Peter said is that his congregation is up to 17 registrations. Thing is, their total membership is 24. And that puts us all to shame, the rest of us, because they're up to 70% participation in their small congregation. 70% participation, which means who's left? Does anybody remember my adoption curve? Who's left on the adoption curve when you get, well, let's say if you got to 85%?
Laggards.
Laggards, right. There's probably kinder terms for them. But not everybody goes first. It's okay. But we should all be so fortunate to get to 70%. Here's the roster at the moment. We've got the 8 congregations, and Congregation Bethel is way ahead of everybody else. They've been doing it longer and better. And what did John just say? Constant pinging gets you to 64 participants. And look at the number of actions there, 486. Very cool, very cool. Anybody want to guess why Congregation Orotid getting blue marks there?
Number
Actions
of
per
actions
member.
per member.
Yeah.
Yes, good. A number of you said actions per member. They stand out. They're small but powerful. So we should get to 241 tree equivalencies per member. This is all good. Now, we don't have a competition going, but it's good to get inspiration. Let's just leave it at that for the time being. I'm going to finish up my slides, turn it over to Brad, and then you can go crazy with the questions. Here's the beautiful picture of the JCAN Mass Energize webpage. And here's the, you can do this. You can do this in the next Shemitah cycle, 2029, 2030 exactly, right? And that's when we need to be at 50%. So if these communities, those of us who show up for this, can't do it, then we're all sunk. But the good news is it can be done. It is not beyond you. And that's my final statement. I will just leave you with my email. Please jot it down, again, with the whatever implement you need. You're welcome to email me at any time. And I will put in one plug for fundraising after this. And then I'll take down my screen.
So Mass Energize is a volunteer-led nonprofit. We're a corporation, but we formed in order to produce this platform and other tools for communities. So this platform, the website is what JCAN has built using our platform. So the important thing that's different on this site is the content is different. Pictures, the actions chosen, the of events and other things, other parts of the site are all content that one of the community administrators, Fred, Ellen, somebody has put in there. Now, you can just explore this. There's different buttons to tell you what sort of events might be happening. This big button, congregations and teams, is what gets you to the list, which Fred showed you. Then take action gets you to the take action list, which Fred also showed you. And then there you can also see what testimonials have been left by people in the greater JCAN community. There's a set of goals. How many actions total that are taken this year? I think it's probably for this year. How many households are involved, and how much carbon has been reduced. Now, this is the carbon reduced is shown in trees. You can show it in different ways. And some, you can show it in pounds of CO2 and things like that. Trees is what most people get, and that corresponds to planting a seedling and growing it for 10 years.
Excuse me, Brad. Harvey has his hand up, I think, for a question.
Well, it's just a comment related to my prior one. So what Brad's showing us is this is what collectively what JCAN as a whole has done, right?
Yes.
And to which there's a lot here, and it's it'd be great to just be working with our entire community to see where we are now and target a number that's substantially larger and keep track of it.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody here will be asked if they would like to take that step before we're done tonight.
Right. Now, Fred talked about impact. That's those the most impactful actions are like most of your carbon footprint. Behind the website is a carbon calculator of sorts, which reports the impact of the actions as we understand them. It's not super accurate. It might be 20 to 30% accurate, but that number of trees comes out of that carbon calculator. So if you go and you say, I want to do solar panels, you'll get a big impact. If you want to do some smaller line dry your clothes or something, I don't know, you'd have a smaller impact. So, and then there's also a place on the homepage that shows you events, and these are important. Showing up, getting people together. It might, a lot of them are on Zoom these days. That is definitely important going on. So if you've come to this page, and especially if you're looking at it with me, the sign in button is where you would go to either create or finish your a profile. And if you can also proceed as guest, in which case Mass Energize wouldn't know your name, they just know your email address. Proceeding with a profile, you tell us a couple of things: your name and where your home is located. That's essentially what you're telling us. And the reason why, if I say we're to proceed with profile, it's going to take me to a form, just a sign in place page. We know you tell us where your home is because your actions count for JCAN, and they also count for the town that you live in if they happen to have a community site. We make it possible for those towns to do accounting of how much greenhouse gases are being reduced within their borders. So all you need to give here is put an email in and hit continue, and you'll get just an email with a verification link that you can click on, and that is how you complete a profile. It's a matter of putting in your email here, hitting continue, and getting the email that was sent to you to check that you are a real person. That's essentially it, and that you have that email address. So it takes maybe about 5 minutes, because once you get that, that's when we ask you, what town do you live in? What is your zip code? And what is your first and last name? Those are the most sensitive information that we collect, and we share it with nobody except the JCAN community. So that is creating the process for creating a profile file. Fred, is that clear enough? Do you want people to try it now? If they try it now and have a problem with it, we could give a couple of minutes.
Yeah, right. Some people, since the program started tonight at 7 o'clock, some people have already tried it. Anybody want to speak up as to who did that? Just unmute yourself.
Hey, Fred. Yeah, I didn't realize I had already signed into this a couple of weeks ago when my colleague had sent it to me. I refreshed it. I added a bunch of stuff in. Great. Got to get the word out.
Okay, great.
Great. So you added a bunch of stuff. That means your carbon footprint improved tonight.
Yeah, well, if the guys at Tesla could deliver my car, yes. but the RMV is not my friend.
Now we're getting real. This is good.
Right.
There's a question in the chat,
Thank you, Thea.
Brad.
Yeah.
Does the carbon calculator assume Massachusetts as the climate location?
Yes.
So locations in the South would be wrongly calculated.
And Brad, that's a good segue to, because there are people here from outside of Massachusetts, just to give them an idea of how this relates to places outside Massachusetts.
Yes, we chose to focus on Massachusetts for now, so that we could. Our model is to try to sort of work intensively with the communities that we connect with, and help them out. And we can only understand one thing at a time. if you lived in another state or another country, you can still learn from the site about what actions you can take and how to take them. And the carbon numbers might be a bit wrong. They might be quite a bit wrong, but an impactful action like driving an EV or getting a heat pump, they're impactful no matter where you are. Our carbon accounting would be probably wrong somewhere else. And in fact, our carbon accounting changes over time because a lot of our things use electricity, and our electricity changes with time. So you can't hope to be super as accurate as all that. Anyway.
And folks can speak up if that doesn't answer the question. Thea, I'll jump in with the next one from Alan. Can you please clarify between an individual signing up versus congregations joining? I'm not clear, and it's a very good question because
a great question.
We are talking about both.
Let me hit the congregations and teams button and get you to the page that Fred already showed you. So these teams are just a subset of the greater JCAN community. So this congregation, Bethel of Sudbury, is a team with 64 members. And in fact, there are sub-teams within this team. Because the idea of these teams is to make it feel like you have some compatriots, you are not a drop in the bucket, you are all taking actions together. So if I hit this expand sub-teams, you'll find out that Congregation Bethel has a bunch of teams within it. Now, setting these up is really simple. I will show you what you would, let me just open up the main team for one of the congregations, so the second one here. You can see the members of this team, just their first names or whatever name they chose to show. 22 members in this case. You can see, a picture and a bit of text. That's how much text this team had to write. And you'll see a graph of the actions that they've taken. A lot of home energy actions. Those tend to be some of them big ones, but obviously transportation as well. They have 22 members. They've done 1,640 trees and 122 actions. You can also see a list of the actions they've taken. If I hit this list, I will see that, and I can order the list by carbon savings. The biggest action in this team is green your electricity. That is an action on the portal. And if I clicked on that, let's say you were a member of the team, you want to do what other people are doing, click on green your electricity, you get to that action page that tells you how to do it. This action page is not tailored per congregation, but it's tailored to be accurate here in Massachusetts. It's been edited by a community admin. Maybe you've done it already, in which case you could click done and tell us approximately when you did it. Did you just do it or a few years back, something like that? Or you can say, I want to put this in on the list of things I want to do. I'm going to get around to it. I can click to do. It's going to, if I'm not already signed in, I didn't sign in, this will just have me sign in. And then to do, and you can say, I want to do it very soon, next year, I'll get around to it. Now, recording that to do is also important because that can tell Fred and the other people on the leading the JCAN team that a lot of people want to do something. That is very useful information because maybe you can run a webinar on it, or you can kind of use that to help people out, which is what it's all about.
So let me interrupt if that's okay, and ask the group. Somebody earlier made a reasonable statement that I don't want to join a website or register on a website before I understand what the heck it's all about. So I don't mean to pick on anybody who has said that. It's a reasonable statement, but are people getting a sense of what it's all about? And if not, now is a good time to ask questions.
I have a question. Is this like giving you tools to as to how to green your electricity, or is this more like you're saying, I want to do this, and you're tracking it and showing people that you're doing this?
If I can try that, Brad, tell me if I get it right. I think the core of this, you click a couple of steps in, and on any one of these boxes that Brad has here, you click, and automatically you are sent to an amazing description of what it's about, almost like a how-to, how to go ahead, how to go ahead with the step. Is it everything you'll ever need? Maybe not, but it gets you a long way towards the goal. If you are a learner, someone who learns by reading and studying, etc., that's great. If you're somebody who will only do something by influence, that is, if you're co-congregants, if you see lots of people in your congregation or in community going ahead, and I'm not saying anybody who's all one or all the other, but that's where the Decarbonizers program comes in. But they mesh together. Janet, is that a good enough answer for the moment?
Well, that's good, because I would like to read, say for instance, I want to learn about what kind of electric car I might get, for instance, then I would click on that and that would give me information, for instance. That's what I would want.
Exactly.
Good idea. Dina,
Thank you.
Dina is asking a question. Does membership in a synagogue's JCAN website count for mass energized towards one's hometown? And she's mentioning Framingham, so that the city of Framingham would have credit for my membership. Great question. And what a perfect setup, because Framingham participates as the city of Framingham, right? And I think your congregation, Dina, participates as your congregation in Framingham.
Oh, is that right? So is it the same team in both communities?
I think she's asking about individuals.
Okay, because you can, okay. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a little bit more. I've signed in now. I signed in using my Google profile because I'm lazy and I don't like going to my email. I even have a little my little profile button. I don't know if you have one of these, Fred. You should if you don't. But this is now showing me the actions page, which Fred showed, and it shows that I've done 18 of them. Been working at this a while, and number of trees. I can also, by the way, express this in cars on the road. I could set this as my default, so maybe my actions have removed 3.6 cars on the road, as the EPA calculates it. That's kind of an EPA conversion. No, but as you asked, no matter which of these, you can click into it, and the information you get was edited by probably by one of the people on this call, or somebody who's expert at whatever action being permitted, being described. And we try to make it as easy as possible. So on steps, they suggest you do this one first, and then 2 and 3 and 4, and this can help you get comfortable and purchase your EV, I suppose.
And Brad, is it a good statement to say if any of us stumble across something that we find not written smoothly or optimally, comments are welcome, right?
Right. There is a page for that. If you find something you don't like, and we could even make it a little easier if I think about it, but if I go on the About Us,
right, we don't have to do that now, but
contact us, you can say, there's a broken link, or there's a, the information's changed on this. That will be very helpful to the team.
It's very collaborative. So there's a couple more questions here, but just to pin down Dina's question, I think the answer is definitely yes. If you put in that your town or city is Framingham, you'll be registered automatically in Framingham's team. Is that correct, Brad?
No, you are not. You show up as a household and actions in their data. You don't actually show up on their team unless you say, I'm part of Framingham. And you can do that by going to the bottom, and you can go to all Mass Energized community sites. You can get to the Framingham site and you can say, I'm a member of the Framingham community.
So are you saying you can only be a member of one?
Oh, no. You can be a member of as many as you want. No reason to be a member of ones you're not really associated with. But if you are a member of, if you said I was a member of Acton, maybe you'd get an email from, maybe you get some emails from them once in a while, or pay attention to their events. That might be a good thing, unless you get too much email.
So when you do actions, then they would both go to Framingham City and also to JCAN?
Yes.
Yes, and specifically,
Does that raise an issue of double counting?
specifically if you're a member, to Temple Beth Shalom in Framingham.
Oh, yeah, is that double counting?
When we're worried about double counting, it's when we worry about the town's double counting, like getting, because that's where the carbon accounting is happening for the state, even though they don't get it from our website yet. The fact that JCAN has saved so many trees and Framingham has saved so many trees, those are just intersecting sets. It's not really double counting.
Good. All right, let's see if we can get through a few more questions. The questions are great. So Laura asks, if you join the website, do you have access to see just the actions of the members of your congregation, or do you have access to every member's information? Laura, did I ask that correctly? You can speak up. I'm not sure I understood the question exactly.
I was just trying to understand, when you join, if you're joining within a group and you only have access to the group's information, or you can click on everybody.
Well,
oh, I see. I don't think members see exactly what other members do. It's you just see the cumulative. Is that correct, Brad?
that is correct. That is correct at this time, and I think that is our intention to keep it correct. You see the cumulative number of actions of people on your team, and you see the name they chose to show as a display name. You don't necessarily know exactly who each person is unless you happen to know them. So in a sense, the information that you might get from looking at some other community sites, you wouldn't be able to identify people and exactly what they did.
I do want to mention that the fees for any synagogue right now on Mass Energize are paid for. From your perspective as a prospective Mass Energized synagogue, it is free. Go for it now. So there's a plug. And okay, we'll go back to the question from Alan. Alan says, I'm still not clear on individual versus congregational membership. Is there a page on the site that clarifies? I'd like to explain this correctly to my Temple's climate team.
A team being a subset of the people as part of the greater JCAN community. There's a button here that says start a team. So if I creating a team for your congregation just means that you can do the accounting. How many actions is this group of people? Has this group of people taken? So starting a team, if I was to click on that, I'd have to put a team name, a tagline. You get to edit this stuff later. Any administrators that could be administrators for the team, a description, that couple of sentences that one of the teams put in, a logo, a picture of your congregation or symbol or something like that. And also whether that team has a parent team. If it's a congregation, it doesn't. If it's a subgroup within a congregation, it would have the congregation's team as a parent team. So this stuff is pretty simple. You could, if you knew what you wanted to write as your description, you could fill this out in a couple of minutes. And then you'd say create. At that point, one of the community administrators, which I think is Fred or Ellen or John, or maybe a few different people, would get an email that says, a new team has been requested. And they would look and say, yes, that looks fine. I could talk to the other administrator, and it would be created. And that could happen very quickly, like in a day or two. Just depends on how busy people are.
Good. Hey, Brad, I want to just jump in before people have to run.
Right.
The later comments, I think what's happening is we're closing the loop. We are showing that learning is happening.
Yeah.
So this is good. So Laura, you say, so the major goal of the website is to keep track of the action steps that have been taken by the total congregation. Yes, correct. And to provide info on how to take action steps. Yes, those two things are super powerful. I mean, that you got it. You got it. Thank you. And Dina and I think Howard were asking about fees. Okay, no fee for any congregation involved because JCAN has paid. And Howard asks, is there a fee for an individual person? And I think the answer for now is definitely not. And Howard, if you weren't in a participating congregation, you could, your registration, your individual registration would just stay there, contributing to the general JCAN good, but not to any congregation until your congregation becomes a team itself. Then you can claim, you can see how well your congregation as a whole is doing. Your congregation has been participating for quite a while.
Yes, I know. How long will is the free membership for congregations?
We did agree to pay for this next year, and
for the year.
When that
Okay.
when that year ends, I don't know, but there's no
Okay.
reason to worry about a year from now.
So is there a yearly membership, or what was the answer to that?
For all the congregations together, yes, and it's been paid for by JCAN generally.
And by year, do you mean from the date of joining?
What's the year, Brad? Do you know?
I think it is from the date of
Okay.
JCAN joining.
Okay.
And,
So you guys keep track. So we have to keep,
Yeah.
that has to be kept track of.
oh, yes.
Now, we've got people from out of state, out of the country. Is there anything more you want to say to them? Some of this my simple answer is some of this translates well, some of it poorly, depending on things. But the general concept is so super cool that it should be replicated in other places. What would you say about the possibilities of replicating, Brad?
Well, we actually made this software. We've been working on the software for a few years now. It's open source because we want this to be replicated. We also wanted people, volunteers and other programmers to be able to help us develop it. We very much want this to be replicated. We might, consider like hosting and licensing it for another state or something like that. We're as a nonprofit, we're trying to figure out how our business model of how we continue to help out. But we mean to have this used. So I want to encourage, anybody to think about that.
Great. And I think it would be a serious request if somebody actually wants to replicate. It's a serious undertaking. You've got quite a team that's been working on this for years, developing this and maintaining it and constantly revising it. I want to also put a plug in for those who might be interested. You have Mass Energize holds a monthly communities meeting, all communities meeting, which is always amazing. Amazing people and amazing topics, amazing discussions. So typically a community administrator, a community leader comes from, we just mentioned, City of Framingham or Town of Newton or town of Medfield, this happens to be my town where I live, and many synagogues can attend, and you learn a lot about the state of the art of climate action. So it's a plug for the monthly meeting, but being a participating congregation is an important step in that direction. Now, have we answered the various questions? People, it's a good time to just speak up.
If somebody bought was an early adopter of an EV and bought it 5 years ago, and they join now, do they get the credit for that?
I love that question. I love that question.
You get extra credit. We are hoping that you're saying that you did that as one of many people will spur other people to do it next year. And so, yes.
Okay. Because I was thinking maybe in order to get this going in my congregation, I would see if I can find some people, rather than go to people and say, hey, there's this Mass Energize, and I think I could say, if I say find somebody who has a Tesla and is very proud of it, I can go, oh, you have a Tesla, this would be great because we could join Mass Energize and you would be able to be the leading, from the get-go, because you can put your, adoption. So that, yeah. And similarly for people with solar panels and stuff.
One thing you should know is that if you have a Tesla or something you've done that is like composting, or even there's Harvey, Michael, and family have a plug-in hybrid. You can leave a few sentence testimonial and a picture of the car or whatnot, and that's the kind of example that other congregants will see, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know why they did that. That looks good." That's a way of sharing on actions that you're taking.
Right, and also, as you're pointing out, I can say to them, hey, before we get our congregation, the mass for our congregation do it, I can say to the person with the Tesla, hey, you can go as an individual and register, and then we get like 3 or 4 individuals who are registered, and then we say, okay, all these people in our congregation will make it a congregational team. Yeah, so that's sort of a pathway there.
This gave me some very good ideas, especially possibly presenting this to the Adult Education Committee to do a series of talks. We are reorganizing a lot. We're very small, and I came in not realizing this was focused on individual actions as opposed to synagogue actions, because we are in a particular situation where we share our building with a church, a preschool, an arts organization, and us. And I was looking for greening the actual synagogue, but this is also valuable to do. So I will think about how to make it work for our congregation.
Fantastic.
And how to connect people.
JCAN has recurring, we have a cycle of workshops, and some of those are about greening the synagogue building.
I could send you the solar for synagogues, and so that maybe if everyone wants to get together, I can send you that webinar. If everyone wants to get together and put solar panels on the roof.
And Dina, do you want to say anything? I really appreciate your congregation is a Mass Energized participant already, and anything you want to say about how that's going?
Well, we're an older congregation, and I haven't been able to get a lot of interest. We had a year ago, we had the sustainability coordinator for the city of Framingham come and talk with us, and 6 people, including my husband and me, showed up. So we had, I don't know if you've heard of him, Mark Bittman, the person who wrote Animal, Vegetable, Junk. We had him for a Zoom session this summer. And it was quite expensive, as you can imagine. And there were 40 devices on. So I don't think that's very much. I was upset by it. The rabbi, I wasn't around, but the rabbi did have a couple of talks that of people she knew. She's from Hebrew College, and she had people she knew talking about the Shemitah year. And we're trying to focus on the Shemitah year, until 5783. So, we really haven't gotten very far, but we're trying to do stuff. I haven't been able to get anybody interested in joining the Beth Shalom team yet, but I'm hoping for a strong new year,
Good,
So.
good. Well, thanks for that report. So, Brad, that brings back a question that you and I have talked about for the past year or so. And you have this en masse protocol now that we experimented with today, where we send an email out to a group saying, please click here and register yourself. But I would like to see it experimented or used, and tell me if you know of more experience, in a way like for Dina, for instance, or for my congregation that's not yet participating as a team, or for Janet's or for John's or Michelle's. Could it work this way, that we get the board approval beforehand? I'm sure we'd have to do that, but then say all we want to do is send an invitation to all the members.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that there'd be a whole lot of hassle with that to get that approval. I mean, it's some hassle, but it's just an invitation.
Right.
What do you think?
But that's what that's essentially what we sent, is just an invitation. But it requires somebody to click the link to say, I'm accepting the invitation. And that basically tells the website that it's a real person. That's pretty much what we did.
Understood. In these cases, though, it would be the way to get a whole synagogue team going.
That would be good. A good way to do it. And that way you can tag it as when they join, they're all on that team, which I didn't do in the email today.
Fred, did you mean get board permission to use the email list without the board voting for the congregation to become a member itself?
Well, good point. Good point,
rather
Howard.
just to get a bunch of its members, and then maybe later they could all say, hey, board, we got to join.
No, it's a good point. Good point, Howard. Yeah, but I think it's a way to make it easy, less friction, saying we want to get this started. We know at least some people will be interested. So please say yes to us, starting as a blank, as a team of 0 people. That's the board approval. And then the second part of the approval, I think you're right, it's a two steps. The second part is, could we use the email list to send the invitation? Yes.
The board may react differently to the congregation officially becoming a member of something, as opposed to using an email list for individuals to become members of Mass Energize without the temple having any obligations.
Yeah, good point. Good point. It is a little bit of an ask. You're right. So on that question of the critical ask, Brad, and I know Ellen was on the call before and had to run, but is Ellen? I don't know that you should want to speak for her, but do you think she's the right person or a right person when it comes to making a 15-minute presentation to a board of directors?
She could do it. You could do it. Steve could do it. Different people could do that just fine.
Right, because every one of the teams that you've got up now, town, and then 8 congregations, somebody said yes in each case.
If JCAN hadn't, paid up in advance for everybody, and it was just a regular year, and our congregation was a member, would the congregation then annually need to pay some dues? And could you give us an idea of the magnitude of those dues?
We're a year and a half into the partnership. We had a grant for the first year that we, meaning JCAN, paid for all the congregations last year. This year, we're paying it out of JCAN's treasury. And I don't know if, Brad, you have next year's fees set, but in any case, they haven't been set by congregation. They've been set by all of JCAN.
Okay, well, I would take that as an indication that our congregation can probably afford it. Because
Right.
I think our congregation has a larger endowment than JCAN does, and we would only be paying for our own congregation, not for the entire thing. So, but I just, if I were bringing that up to the board or something, a question like that might come up, and it would, if I could say, oh, it's going to be like $200 or something, that would.
Yeah. So we aim to be low cost because we want this to be open to everyone. And so the fees that that Mass Energize takes for hosting the platform and helping and supporting JCAN are very low. They're probably I'd have to look up, but they're a few $100s for the whole thing for a
Okay,
year.
so that's
We aim for it to be so low that it's kind of not a barrier.
Okay, well, that's that's good to know, because I mean, like I say, if I'm talking to a board member and they have that concern, I can say it's de minimis in the terms of our congregation.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I could say I'll pay for it if I want to do it. I'll just whatever.
John, do you have an active green team these days?
No. See, that's why this might be also a route to doing that. I have an email roster, but I only send something out like once or twice a year because I don't get that much response. These are people that pre-COVID, just in hanging around Onegs and stuff, talking to people. If I would find out that they had any smack of environmental anything, I would just put them on my list. So I have 20 or 25 people there. But we, yeah, that's right. We had a green team. We had like 10 people that met right before COVID, and that was just kind of like the end of it for now.
It's like a check the box kind of thing for an individual who most individuals are not as so climate focused as we are. We got to admit that, but they can check this box, and literally that's all they need to do. Really, not everybody needs to be so overwhelmed as we are, but we do need them to check this box. And also I want to reemphasize the time scale. We've been at this for years. You, John, Howard, Thea, Janet, Brad. We've been at this for years, 9 years, and it's very clear to me that whether you're talking about a household or a synagogue building, anything, it takes years for stuff to happen. So I really appreciate that Mass Energize has been around for a couple of years, and I hope it's going to stay around through this next Shemitah cycle, which is to 2029, 2030.
I wanted to ask you, do congregations within JCAN use social media, Facebook group to communicate with one another? That is a way that you can kind of draw people in. You want to tell people in your congregation about this. On any page that has one of these icons, you can share the link to this page and make a little post, draw people in. Hey, try this out, or hey, do this. I just put on solar, or something. You can share that stuff. I just wanted to mention that.
Cool. Does anybody here know how to do what Brad just said?
No.
If I click on this, it's going to bring me up a dialogue that says, share this site, Jewish Climate Action Network, made with, and I can say, this is our new action site, or this is our new team site, or whatever it is. It's pretty easy. And then you say post to, you can do your story or to a group, I think. I guess you do it to your story and then you copy it to a group or something.
This is a good argument for having a green team, where if I don't know how to do that, somebody else on my team does.
Yeah.
Or if I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
Right. Because not everybody can do everything. But Brad, that's great. And for those of us left on the call, Brad, you should know there's a huge, everybody that signed off, basically, I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people, as they signed off, said, this is a great session. Thanks for this great work. Thanks so much. Very helpful. Thanks a billion. I really like the idea of reaching for big emission reductions by next Shemitah year. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really. Okay. So anyway, a lot of kudos, and thank you so much for putting this together. I know all the work that goes into Mass Energize in general. And did you say how many of you are volunteers?
Right now, we are all volunteers. With the exception, we're paying one interim program manager. We are in the process of trying to hire an executive director. And this is going to be a big change for us because we aim to be around for the end of that Shemitah cycle, if I said that correctly. But being volunteers, we can't commit to it unless we have some help. So we need to, and I'm very excited about this. I feel like this is really launching the enterprise in a way by getting a new leader to help us really push this thing. It's joyful work, I must say, and I really enjoy the people involved with it.
Brad, all my interfacing with the Mass Energize over the years has been fantastic, and I know what a core asset you are there, and I thank you for everything, really. And I think with that, we'll close it out.